Hey everybody, welcome to Saturday Scares with Kyle. I'm your host Kyle Goethe from GoatFilmReviews.com, and today we're going to get stoned. And by that, I mean we're going to talk the stone giant himself, Daimajin. So this is the first in a trilogy of films that, interestingly enough, they were all made in 1 year.
Let me see this.
They were shot back to back to back, and they were released over the course of 12 months. So you had this entire trilogy that came out, much in the way like they're doing with the Strangers trilogy or Fear Street a couple years ago.
Okay.
Basically, it's a combination because it's not really a kaiju movie. It's kind of, I've seen the term kaijin, which is a humanoid kind of a monster. It's also a jidaigeki or period drama, as well as being a shanbara. This is live action.
Why would you do a cover like this one?
Well, that's just Arrow Video. Arrow Video does some of the best animated looking covers ever. But basically it follows a lord of the Tamba province who gets slain during a coup. His children get taken into hiding near a giant stone creature called Daimajin, who they eventually reawaken in order to exact their revenge using this great demon god of the past. So the first hour of this film, there's actually no horror really in it. It's very much a period drama, character building film. You get the opening scenes where we meet Kozasa and Tadafumi, who are the two children who are brought away. When we're introduced to Kozasa, she actually is singing this beautiful song. So we're kind of carried into the film with this really beautiful telling of her past and where she's been. This is a movie about pain. This is a movie about, being taken away from your family. It almost feels like Dune in some way. The Lord is slain and everyone is taken into hiding. But they eventually come back on a giant stone creature. And the last 20 minutes of this movie is pure magic. One of the most horrifying scenes ever is this creature with expressionless face shows up and decides to wreak havoc, and just 20 minutes of absolute nonstop horror shenanigans that I think is some of the best horror I've seen. It was actually brought forth to Dai Films, which was the competitor to Toho. Toho is doing pretty well with their Godzilla films. Dai was looking for their alternative. They had Gamera, the giant turtle, and they wanted to introduce Daimajin actually as a villain to Gamera in one of the films. He was eventually taken out and made his own character, and they released.
So cool.
It would have been pretty cool to see those two together. I'm still hoping one day we'll get that combination. He was given his own kind of film, basically seen as a reimplementation of the 1936 film The Golem, and that popular mythos as well.
Oh, I love those.
So, whereas Gamera eventually fought Baragon in the same film that they were going to do, which I think is one of the lesser Gamera villains. I'm just going to go out there and say it. Okay. We haven't seen much of Daimajin since the trilogy aired. There was a 26-episode series in 2010, and he also appeared as a background character in the Yokai Monsters movies, which were another kind of monster epic fantasy saga that happened out in Japan as well during that time period. So he hasn't had this big resurgence. I'm actually really thankful for Arrow Videos releasing the trilogy, because I honestly would not have known of this movie's existence except for my inability to not click add to cart when I see something like this.
This is late 60s, right?
1966, all three films in fact in 1 year. So you really got your full feature of giant stone man destroying
And it's in
villages.
color, right?
Yep.
It's in color, not in black and white.
Not in black and white.
Okay.
So it definitely has its time in the American world. It was released actually as Majin the Monster of Terror. And it was actually released direct to television. So if you were growing up a few years after this came out, you might have caught this on late night TV, and that would have been your only way to experience this film until home video decades later. So that's kind of one of the reasons why it's not even really in America the way that we see things. Even Gamera. Gamera is more well known.
Yeah, there was one video store in Minneapolis in the 80s and 90s that was specifically, you could find obscure foreign films like these. And we didn't even carry it in our mom and pop video store. But yeah, you would have to make an adventure to look for them.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things, everyone kind of looks back on their childhood and says, in my childhood there's those magical times we'd go to the video store and we'd rent movies, and that is my all-time favorite memory of my childhood. But there's something to be said about right now when you can purchase these films and find them in a much easier capacity, thanks to great social or physical media, thanks to great streaming ability. So that's one of the things that makes me so happy to live in this time period as well. The movie is actually directed by Kimayoshi Yasada. I want to really mention him as well because he directed 5 films in the Zatoichi franchise, which ran 26 films. And a number of the actors in this film actually appeared in various Zatoichi films because they were also done, I believe, by Dai. You can tell the sets in this film were basically the Zatoichi guys were left after their movie was done, so we just brought in some people and filmed in the same sets. It's an absolutely madcap film. And if you get a chance, I would definitely check it out. If you're really interested and you like kaiju-style films, I would pick this one up and add it to your personal collection. It's available in a trilogy from Arrow, and it's definitely worth your time, even though it doesn't feature kaiju until the last 20 minutes.
Shout out, if you didn't know, my comic book artist friend Scott Rolfs does kaiju coloring books.
Oh, awesome. Let's get a Daimajin
I should have brought one. I should have brought one. I had one with me today.
Yeah, so thank you for joining me for this introspective look on Daimajin. We'll probably cover the other two films at some point, but next time you can join me as we get a little Naschy, and I'm talking Paul Naschy when we do Count Dracula's Great Love. Share your thoughts on Daimajin down below and maybe suggest something for a future episode. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.